Sup boys, it's Figured here, and I wanted to talk about the TWoW lawsuit situation. And I got a lot of things to talk about. I'm going to talk about like the lawsuit itself and what might potentially happen to TWoW, even if there's not going to be a quote-unquote shutdown. I think that there's still going to be other problems potentially for them. And I'm going to talk about I'm also going to talk about like Blizzard, the service that they offer, the game that they're offering, their failings, their shortcomings. And I'm going to talk about like intellectual property law and my kind of problem with it and reform I would like to see to it that will probably never happen. Stuff like that. So yeah, I got a lot to talk about. So first of all, some background, okay? I play private servers, guys, but this was not like a natural state. I don't like the fact that I play on private servers. I don't like the fact that I feel like I have to engage in piracy to enjoy the game I love. Just straight up, I don't like it. I do it because I feel like I have to, but I don't really like it. If there was a legitimate, above board, like legal way for me to engage with the game and Blizzard were offering a great service, I would have no problem paying for it. Cost is not the objection to me. The problem I have with Blizzard is that they offer bad service. They have a bad game, right? They have a bad game. They manage the game badly, and they make you pay through the nose for it, okay? On several like fronts, all right? I played 2019 Classic. I played 2019 Classic all the way through to like almost to the end of TBC, okay? So this isn't an issue of, I'm not some recalcitrant bastard who just, just decides he doesn't like paying for things and just goes to private servers, all right? That ain't me. Never has been, never will be, okay? I did it because I felt like I had to, right? Because I felt like I had no good, or as someone who is passionate about the game, who loves the game, who appreciates the game as a piece of art, I felt like I had no alternative, okay? That's my honest to God truth, okay? So, the service you offer, Blizzard, let's be real. You know, I played 2019 Classic. Botting in that game was a joke. On the daily, we got dwarf rogues hanging out in BRD. You know, you don't have to be a detective. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes here, guys. You get into the game, you type who, rogue, Blackrock depths. You got 50 billion dwarf rogues named Sadish and all right, pickpocketing dwarf asses 24/7. Printing T-boos, okay? It's ridiculous. Shit's insane. Shit is so cooked, all right? It's a mess, all right? They're just printing gold 24/7. RMTs everywhere. I literally know the people selling gold on my server. I know who they are. They're selling like DM instances all the goddamn time, but they never raid, right? I know who these people are, okay? They're selling like, you see them on the auction house, they never raid. They don't raid with anyone. They don't raid with anybody at all. You look for them on the logs, it's John Travolta looking around, where are they? They're not anywhere, okay? Like, we all know who the RMT sellers are. I know that there are buyers. I've been in several guilds in 2019 Classic. Everybody's talking about, buying gold. Or in every guild, it was just part of the guild culture that people were talking about buying gold. There's a disgusting, endemic culture of breaking the TOS. RMT, buying and selling. That was never cracked down on. Botting everywhere. Never cracked down on. I remember when they started limiting how many characters you could create on Arugul, right, which is the highest like oceanic server, in anticipation of the fact that character creation would be limited, they started spinning up a bunch of characters at once. And they would literally have like armies of multi-box mages rapidly leveling up and playing the game in anticipation of like character creation shutting down. Like I remember like a few days before they were going to shut down character creation for Arugel for a while and lock the server for a bit, right? There was just all these multi-boxed fucking mages spun up running across all the zones. It was so obvious to anyone actually playing the game what was going on. It was so negligent, so disgusting, such a complete failure from Blizzard to manage their game state at any point, right? At any point. And private servers do a way better job of policing this shit. They do a way better job of policing this shit. And that would be one thing. It would be one thing if you guys were like negligent. But here's the thing that really twists the knife for me. The thing that really twists the knife for me is that World of Warcraft is the most monetized game in the history of games. Like, I think it is the most monetized game ever. Right? So the fact that you can't even like enforce TOS when it's the most monetized game ever is just insulting as a service. And let me explain what I mean by the most monetized game ever. You got the game. You've got yearly expansions that you pay for. You've got a sub fee and you have microtransactions. Most people, when they bitch and moan about monetization in video games these days, they're like, oh man, they made me pay full price for the game and then there were microtransactions. That's bad enough. That's what people are complaining about. People are complaining about live service games. Okay, that's bad enough. But you got a sub fee on top of that, man. This is the most heavily monetized game in the history of games, dog. Like, and you know what? I might even be willing to pay it if you actually provided a half decent service. But you don't, man. You just don't. Okay? It's absolutely embarrassing that the game state is like this. It's embarrassing. I'm not going to pay for it. Right? Ridiculous. Okay? And, you know, when it comes to content, I mean, you just... I've looked at SOD. I've seen what's going on in SOD. Alright? And, you know, SOD is... Some of it's okay and some of it makes sense for what it is. But, like, when I look at, like, the core gameplay loop of SOD, it's just like... It's retail light. It's retail light. Like, I'm sorry. Like, TWoW... and now Epoch as well, are just doing Classic Plus better than you. And this is a thing, man. The thing is, like, the enthusiasts of your game now understand what made your game great better than you do, Blizzard. Okay? Better than you do. Straight up. Like, that's the way I see it. And, like, this makes me think, like, on a deeper level about, like, intellectual property stuff, because it's like, on one hand, okay, so I'll talk about the lawsuit. On one hand, like, TWoW, they're being ridiculously ballsy. They're being insanely ballsy. Like, they bring down the hammer, Blizzard did, but they were kind of goading Blizzard, right? The way that they were publicly running ads on Google Ad Space, the way that they boasted about, like, huge concurrent player numbers, okay? The way, I mean, to get an idea of how ridiculously ballsy this guy is, right? Alkalix, the community manager for TWoW, publicly put, like, his work with TWoW on his LinkedIn page. On his LinkedIn page. Bro is absolutely insane. He's in the US. He is in the US. He could be, like, easily, like, bring in as part of this lawsuit because he's actually in the jurisdiction of the US. And he has the balls, the temerity, the chutzpah to put this on his LinkedIn page. Like, that's insane. It's crazy. But, so they kind of had it coming, but man, they threw the book at him. It wasn't just like a cease and desist. They're like, no. This is a criminal organization. No, it's a criminal organization. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, Turtle will never get shut down. Turtle will never have anything happen to it because, the people who run the server are doing it outside the US's jurisdiction. They're shacking up with Edward Snowden. They're golden. They got a golden ticket. They're immune, dude. And, I'm just not so sure. Because I've seen what happens to certain, let's say, politically dissident sites on the internet before. And the way they tackle them, they don't need to have a 3-letter agency send in a law enforcement team to breach and clear their server room, guys. It's not how it's going to go down, right? With sites like, take for example the Daily Stormer. They shut down like payment processing completely, right? You couldn't. So this is like you couldn't pay them if you wanted to. You couldn't donate to them if you wanted to. Basically, they would refuse to resolve it or fix it for them. So banks just had this like unilateral power to just be like, nah, we're just not gonna let you pay this guy. Like, and then we get to like hosting services and like, services like Cloudflare. They get them pulled off of services like Cloudflare. They go after their hosting. They go after like the infrastructural. They attack them at the infrastructural like backbone of the internet. They don't attack the site directly. They attack them at the infrastructural backbone and basically hold them to heel there, right? And they also. I remember one time there was this horrible shooting in Christchurch in New Zealand. I'll spare you the details, but basically the guy shot some people and he filmed himself and he uploaded the video to the internet. The video went kind of viral in various places, but many websites pulled it because, you can't just put violent content on places like YouTube or Facebook or whatever, for example. And it was shared and disseminated in a few forums like 4chan. And my internet service provider basically black-holed access, like refused to resolve the domain name of 4chan for like a good couple of months. So, they do this sort of thing. They are willing... There are ways, like... TWoW is not immune to, like... They're not beyond reproach, right? There are vectors of attack that could, seriously mess them up. So, don't think that Blizzard is completely powerless. I mean, they'll need help and cooperation from other people, but it feels like they are going really hard and trying to secure that sort of help and that cooperation if they're going to invoke things like RICO. Which is the basically used for criminal organizations, the mafia, basically. So yeah, I just don't think that these things are beyond reproach because I've seen what they've done to certain sites to basically unperson them on the internet. I've seen it happen to a few sites, Daily Stormer, Kiwi Farms, 4chan, etc. At times, right? So I wouldn't be like so convinced that they can't be reached, they can't be touched, right? And if something does happen to TWoW, I think it'll be along the lines of that. It'll be some sort of indirect sort of attack like that, right? They'll speak to ISPs, they'll speak to hosting services, they'll speak to things like that to shut them down indirectly. But yeah, like as ballsy and as crazy as TWoW have been, I ultimately they understand the game better than the original than the intellectual property holders do at the moment, which is kind of interesting because like I'm thinking about like I've been thinking about intellectual property and it's just like it would be one thing if it was like tied to a specific person. And the specific person or small group of people had a say. over the direction of the intellectual property. But the problem is there's so many intellectual properties in the modern world that have just been folded into this faceless corporation. And this faceless corporation is just kind of taken custodianship of this intellectual property. They have many people at the company that don't really understand it, don't really appreciate it on the creative level that the original creators or creator had for it. And they're trying to just make some cynical fucking remaster, some cynical fucking remake. You know, there's remakes and remasters all over the place these days. Movies, video games, you name it, right? And in many cases, I would say that they're actually inferior to the original work, and they're worse than not remaking it because they actually supplant the original work and people don't experience the original work, right? So there's a really fantastic video by I forgot his name, but he made a really fantastic video. I'll link it in the description. A guy talking about the Demon Souls remake and the huge liberties that the remake team took with Demon Souls and how it basically detracted from the original artistic direction of the game. And nobody will really play the original anymore. The original has been kind of supplanted by this remake. And this one-off YouTuber guy is an enthusiast. He cares about the game. He's invested in this game's artistic merit and points this out. And he's more invested in it than the guys remaking the fucking game were, right? So I really dislike how you have this work of art and the original creator or creators are completely absent. They're completely missing from the conversation. This faceless corporation has taken custodianship of it, and they own the intellectual property now. They give it to a group of unrelated creative people. They butcher it. They misunderstand it. They fuck it up, and somehow their interpretation is more authoritative and more valid than the enthusiast fan projects that are way more popular and get way more universal praise from fans of the series and fans of the original work. You know what I mean? It's kind of fucked up. It's kind of messed up to me. I think that when it comes to intellectual property law, I think it might actually be for the best that there was some sort of set period, maybe, I don't know, 20 years or 15 years or something like that. You have the intellectual property, cool, and you get to print money and make whatever artistic project you want with it over that 15, 20 year period. Some arbitrary period. We could debate about how long the period would need to be, right? So even if you wanted to make a long series of books or something, or some long in the tooth series of movies or something crazy, even if you want to do that, you'd have enough time to do that realistically. But you basically don't have, and then after that period elapses, it just becomes public domain, and it becomes open to other people to kind of remake and recreate and basically let the market decide if it's valid or not, instead of having this this random corporation become the custodian of what really has artistic merit. It's no, fuck you guys. I think Epoch's interpretation of Classic Plus and TWoW's interpretation of Classic Plus is superior to your shit. Your shit is, as the kids say, mid. What do you want me to say, dog? I just think we need to peacefully sunset intellectual property rights at some point, because otherwise it's just going to be we're just going to have these cynical corporate suits butcher and remake these games without a fucking ounce of the passion or care or enthusiasm of these great like fan projects. You know, because Blizzard throws out this lawsuit, and I'm like, they're like, Turtle WoW has damaged, could potentially damage the brand. But it's like, dude, yeah, Turtle WoW has damaged your brand. Turtle WoW has damaged your brand by owning you on your own shit, okay? By making your own game better than you can these days, all right? Showing you up for being a bunch of clowns, okay? You know, and I just have to ask Blizzard, like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? Who from the original dev team is even around anymore? You know, is Kevin Jordan up there? You know, I don't think so. He's gone. He's long gone. And whatever developers you got working on World of Warcraft right now, it's a fundamentally different game. It's a fundamentally different game. It's fundamentally like different developers with different philosophies, different creative ideas, managing that game. Even if you like that game, which I don't, but if you do, right, it ain't the same, right? It's not the same. It's not the thing that they made in 2004. So I think they can have like they can have current WoW, like they can have the intellectual property rights to Dragonflight or whatever. I don't care about that, or even like the more recent expansions, right? Maybe go as far back as like, I don't know, Kata or something. But I think like having exclusive intellectual property rights to this stuff, it's not the only people that it serves. The only people that it serves is the fucking pocketbook of big conglomerates, big corporations, right? It doesn't serve the fans. It doesn't serve the consumers. It doesn't serve the enthusiasts who are willing to remake it or create something better, right? It doesn't serve the interests of anybody. Like, nobody wins here. Nobody wins, man. Like, I saw a bunch of, like, misguided, like, retail players, like, cheering on, yeah, I guess your dumb illegal server will get shut down. Like, bro, you don't win here. This is not a W, okay? There are no winners here. The only people who win, you know, and we're spending all this effort in terms of like legal resources to hold people to account. I mean, this is probably not even that egregious of a case, but there are some seriously egregious like intellectual property. It's like, this isn't public domain yet. This 120-year-old cartoon of Mickey Mouse isn't public domain yet. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, where it just borders on utter ridiculousness. You know, isn't it just a massive waste of legal resources to pursue people for this sort of thing? Isn't it just a massive waste of time for everybody involved? Shouldn't this have just become like public domain like decades ago? Because if we don't do this, we're going to have companies jealously hoarding and clutching onto the intellectual property where the intellectual involved was literally deceased multiple human lifetimes ago. Like, you know what I mean? It's absurd. It's ridiculous. The idea that this corporate entity best knows how to manage the intellectual property of a guy who's been dead for over a century is absurd, right? It's just nonsense. I don't know, man. So yeah, I think like they may look. I'll end with this. Blizzard may have the right legally, right? They have the law on their side for now, right? Whatever. They may have claim over the intellectual property of WoW, but as far as I'm concerned, culturally, artistically, they have lost the mandate of heaven. Okay? Culturally and artistically, they have been measured and found wanting. Straight up. Thanks for listening.